Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking with Frank Rohde. Frank, it is great to connect with you. Ownify.com, CEO and founder. Let's dive into what you do. You guys work with first-time home buyers, with savvy investors, and together you're creating a new path to ownership. I find this business so interesting because by first-time home buyers, it's hard to be a first-time home buyer today. I feel like growing up, first-time home buyers could afford homes. Now it seems like a starter home is $300,000-$400,000, and that seems to be everywhere you go around the country. Interest rates are up as we're recording this. It's March 13th, 2025. I'm working from home. That's my dog, and so. And it's harder to get a loan today, and there's more requirements for appraisers. And so enter Ownify. So talk a little bit about how you see the landscape differently and what you're doing as a company to help first-time home buyers.
Yeah. Thanks. First of all, thanks for having me, John. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for being here.
In the conversation. So, my background is mortgage pricing. I've spent my entire career building companies in that space, financial services, working with large lenders. And a number of years ago, started seeing this problem that first-time home buyers are getting squeezed out of the market. And that was before interest rates came up and are now in the 6 and 7% range. And so decided to start Ownify to really rethink how we enable customers and first-time buyers to make that journey into the starter home. And to your point, it's the $300,000-$400,000 single family home that we're focused on and that we're helping customers buy. And so basically what we do is we looked at the problem and said, why do you have to take on a large amount of debt, right? A mortgage to buy the home, own 100% of the home, or buy it, hold title, pledge title to the lender, and then pay that off over 30 years. Why can't you buy your home brick by brick, or piece by piece, fraction by fraction? And so what we've done with Ownify is we've built what is a debt-free path to ownership by allowing people to pick homes. We purchase them, we fractionalize them into 10,000 bricks. Each brick is a bona fide ownership interest, a membership interest in the home, expressed through a fractional ownership in an LLC. And that's the vehicle by which we allow customers to build equity in their home. And so every month they're buying more bricks, buying more equity in the home. They're renting the bricks that they haven't bought. So if you think about it, structurally a customer is a fractional owner and a fractional renter. And the more they own, the less they rent. And that's a vehicle by which we can get someone into a home with a 2% down payment. Today, with lower monthly payments than the equivalent mortgage payment would be. And, we can get someone off the sidelines into a home, have them build equity. And at some point in the future, when they're ready, right, when they've built up enough equity, 10% is usually the minimum, you can then go out and get a mortgage and effectively refinance into the traditional mortgage structure. So the way to think about Ownify, it's really an on-ramp for first-time home buyers to help them overcome the down payment hurdle, make the payments a little bit more affordable, right? Get people into homes quicker. And the way we do that is that, the other side of the partnership are accredited investors, higher net worth individuals, family offices in local markets who say, I'm willing and I'm interested in financing homes in my community or in other communities for that matter. But I'm interested in financing homes and young families who are on that journey to home ownership. And as an investor, I get, income, fixed income, rental income along the way, and I get home price appreciation. So it's a two-sided value proposition. We're really trying to rethink that journey.
And so, this is a big rethink. This isn't kind of the normal 80, 20, 30-year fixed, or maybe a 5-year ARM, or, et cetera, et cetera. So how do you educate people on exactly, what this is and how it works for them? Where's the security for your home buyer? Where's that security that, maybe they can't afford one of the bricks, one of the weeks, one of the months, or 10 of, you know what I'm saying? So how does that work?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is, and you put your finger on the crux of the challenge, right? Which is we've bought homes kind of the same way for the last 70, 80 years, right?
Right.
With
I mean, you're making a totally different market, right? You're building a whole new. I remember reading Al Rise and Jack Trout's all of their books in my 20s. I don't know if you read any of their.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, so I love their work, and but one of the things they talk about is if there isn't a market, build one. And then you got to make sure that people actually buy it and jump into it. And so you're basically creating a new category. And
that's exactly right. We're creating a new category of fractional ownership, right? It sits between renting and owning the traditional way. And a lot of the challenge is consumer education, right? And so the way we've tackled it is we do a lot of writing and publishing and talking and, YouTube videos and podcasts. And so I'm out there telling the story. Our customers are telling their story, right? And we're trying to get them involved. So a lot of that is just the storytelling aspect and the, examples. We are very much focused on the realtor channel. And
wait, so hold on. So I'm just going to read a couple, from your website. Ownify really gave us this chance to get into our first home when we felt like maybe we wouldn't have been able to. Just feel so good to be in our own home. I would think that would be, Skylar, Ownify. And so what can you tell a little bit more about Skylar's story? Because I think I think people learn through story. This is a new category, and if they'll learn through story faster. So what was Skylar's UNSTUCK and story?
Sure. So it's Zach and Skylar, right? They're a couple living in Raleigh. They're renters, had always been renters, both professionals, both college educated. One has a master's degree, the other one a bachelor's degree. They both work in healthcare. And there's an interesting parallel around that story, right? You look at Zach and Skylar, but a lot of our other customers look very similar, which is they're young, they're professional, they have great careers, they have solid incomes, right? They have good credit, but because they haven't saved, they don't have the down payment. And then when you ask Zach or Skylar, well, why haven't you built up more of a down payment savings? It's, well, because we have student loans, right?
Yeah.
And so if I look across the portfolio, not just Zach and Skylar, but others, a big hurdle for young people today is student debt, because it's hard to save for a down payment, and then stacking a mortgage payment on top of the student loan payment gets prohibitive. And so that was their particular story. And so what happened is, they learned about Ownify through one of our events in Raleigh. We started talking. It took them a couple of months to get their head around the structure, right? And I think one of the other things we learned with Skylar and Zach in particular, but again with other customers, is if you're younger and you have this notion of, I believe that technology can solve a problem, you're more open to looking at, fractional ownership. You're fractionalizing homes into 10,000 bricks, right? They're ownable entities, which is, it's a different way of thinking about the world and the home purchase than maybe your parents and your friends and, other people have. But if you have this mindset of I'm open to having technology help me solve a problem, then it's a lot easier to jump in. And so they asked a lot of their friends and their realtors and a local attorney, and we had basically an educational process with their kind of the folks that they trusted, right? And ultimately they got to the point where they said, yeah, this is for us and this is good for us.
Yeah. It's so interesting. There's this affordability gap right now. And, you look at the cost of things and, you're in your scenario, you have two educated people, both working hard, student loans, high debt. You look at the cost of things today and not just today in the snapshot of today, but just how much more expensive it seems to live than how we grew up with our parents in the 80s, or, and so it is. I think that story is very common. And I think the listener was thinking you were going to maybe say, unemployed, didn't go to college. Not that there's anything wrong with not going to college, by the way, but the story I think is a very common story. People making what many would define as a lot of money, that still can't afford the traditional way of buying a home today and everything else that goes with it. And so to the Zach and Skylar-ish person listening right now, that first step of talking to you sounds like what?
It's coming to the website and learning, right? Ownify.com. And we have a bunch of tools, calculators, fairly deep dive into, how exactly does this work? And then the important step along the way is once you've gone through that, you schedule what we call a concierge call. And that's one of our team members, right? We sit down with you, we walk through how the program works, making sure you understand it, making sure it's right for you. And, it's that education up front that's really the key piece to make sure that you understand exactly how this program works, right? And we understand that your situation is the right one. And not everyone's situation is right. And oftentimes we say, you should get a mortgage. Or quite frankly, you're not ready yet, right? You got to work on your credit, you got to work on your income, and maybe, revisit this in 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, right? I think if I look back to kind of, the underlying reason we started Ownify, and I go back to my personal situation, I came here from Germany as an immigrant, went to college, moved to California, eventually wanted to buy a condo, right? And I had good income. I didn't even have student debt, but I didn't have the down payment. So, my parents helped me and they effectively lent me the down payment, right? And at the time you have to tell the bank it's a gift and, technically it's a gift, but then eventually you pay it back. And today, 50% of first-time buyers do that. They get help from their families. Think about that, 50%, right? That begs the question, well, what if you don't have parents who have the money, right? Why isn't there a structural solution, a private market solution for this, right? Rather than, well, if your family is wealthy enough, great, right? But if not, you kind of, you're either saving and waiting, or you don't have a path into ownership. And that's really why we started thinking about this, because you hear the story over and over again, right? And it's that there has to be a better path here where we can provide that on-ramp, right? And that leg up.
Yeah. I think it's so great. It's such a great idea. What's the biggest obstacle you're having? I mean, of course, you said education and things of that nature, but what's the biggest obstacle that you're seeing starting a new category?
It is education, right? It's education on both sides. One on the consumer side, and on the consumer side, quite frankly, we now have a wait list, right? There's a ton of people who've come in, who've qualified, so we're very happy with that traction. The other side of the business is capital raising. And that's the other thing that I'm, focused on, which is how do I get enough investors to come in and invest in this value proposition, right? And say, I'm willing to invest in homes for 5 years. I'm willing to become effectively a silent partner or a limited partner in this structure, right? To fund some portion of the home that young people are buying. And so we launched a fund, and I'm fundraising into that fund, right? And that's high net worth individuals and families and kind of pre-institutional investors coming into that fund today. And that's the other challenge, right? And once we put the two together, right, the math itself and the value proposition, we've been doing this for 2 years now, it's strong for the consumer, it's strong for the investor. So we know that the mousetrap itself that we've built is working. It's now, how do we scale it? And how do we scale it in a way where you always have enough capital to fulfill consumer need and enough consumers to deploy the capital. So keeping the ship balanced, if you will.
Yeah. What gave you the courage to, you had the idea, but what gave you the courage to jump in? I mean, starting a new category is not easy. If there is one of my favorite books that I read probably like 30 years ago was Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey Moore. And if you've read it, and it has, the early adopters and then, the late adopters and the laggards. I mean, getting those early adopters, it's really hard to do. And it takes a lot of time, money, energy, brand building, mind share, that leads to market share. And you got to be ready to do the work. And so what gave you the courage to actually take action and do it?
I guess two things. One is this is my third go around on starting a company and building a company. So I had gone through that kind of 0 to 1 phase with my prior company, which was the software company, and then early on in my career with an internet startup. So, and as scary as it sounds, right? Once you've gone through it once or twice, it's less scary. And the good news about starting a company is you're in control of your own destiny. The bad news is you're in control of your own destiny. There's no one else to blame, right?
Yeah.
So that's one reason, which is just kind of this notion of it's not as scary as maybe it sounds. The second reason was, quite frankly, the size and the importance of this issue, right? Yeah. And you pick up the newspaper on any given day, you'll find an article on, are we turning into a nation of renters? Is the middle class shut out of housing? How do we solve affordability? We're short 6 to 8 million units, right? This is a big issue. And there aren't really good solutions out there. And I'm not purporting that we're going to solve that, right? But I am focused on building a solution for, some small number of people and hopefully a growing number of people, where we can solve this in a way that generates benefit for the consumer and for the investor. And that's a really worthwhile exercise. And that's a way I want to spend my career, right? And looking back at the prior things I've built, this is really a worthwhile generational undertaking. And it can be a massive company and a massive success. And so that's what gets me out of bed and kind of motivates me to do this, right? And to grind away, which is the reality of building a company, is, a lot of it is grinding and a lot of hard work and a lot of, long days and late hours.
Yeah. Amen. Nobody ever started their own company to work less. That's for sure. Right. All right. Quick speed round. You ready?
Yeah.
You graduated from Wharton School. Number one takeaway.
Sweat the details. Pay attention to the details.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Grinding the spreadsheets matters, as boring as it is later in your career.
Yeah, the details matter. I know the old, I don't know if it's true or an urban legend, Sam Walton would be in a conference room and they would give him the numbers and say, this is what we need to do. And he would think to himself, nobody here even shops at Walmart. He'd go to the coffee shop and have pie with coffee with his customers, and then come back to the boardroom and say, this is what matters, really getting granular on those details. Your favorite book that's had an impact on you, Frank?
Give and Take by Adam Grant.
Yeah, he's good. I like his work.
Yeah, this notion of pay it forward, right? Do favors to people, because eventually the universe will pay it back. I think that's a piece that's missing too often in business, right? Yeah,
I agree. Give, and it comes back tenfold. There's a great book, The Go-Giver by Bob Burg. If you haven't read it, it's a great book. Last question. Finish Bob Burg. Yeah, I've interviewed him a couple of times on my podcast. He's a great guy. Last question. Finish the sentence. One thing everybody can do to take the next step in home ownership, who can't necessarily see it but know they want it, they should what?
Challenge conventional wisdom, right? And go out there and learn and look at all the things that are out there, not just Ownify, right? There's house hacking, there's creative ways, there's co-living, there's this. The amazing thing is you look at all the things that people are doing to solve this problem. A lot of it is creativity and being smart about it, and not saying, oh, my agent told me I can't do this, or my mortgage lender said no, right? No, don't take that as an answer. Go figure out this problem, right? There are paths and there are ways to do it. And we're one of them.
Right. Find the path, advocate for yourself, keep on searching, look for the path that's right for you. Frank, tell everybody who your ideal clients are and where they can connect with you.
Ideal clients are folks looking for starter homes, right? $250,000 to $600,000 starter homes in the US. You can connect with us at Ownify.com. We're live in the Southeast today. We're expanding rapidly. If you come to the website and we're not in your market, we'll be in your market soon. And reach out to me at frank@Ownify.com, or, find us on the website, schedule a concierge call. Love to meet you.
That's great. Frank, I appreciate you taking time. It's always fun talking to somebody who has their own business, has started their own category, has some, life experience that drove them to, build something better for the people behind them. Think community. We talked a lot about, entrepreneurship, building your own business, what it takes, courage, and starting your own category. It's not always easy, but it sure can be fulfilling. And if there's something that I think fuels everybody, it's fulfillment. So Frank, thank you so much for taking time. Think community, continue to search for what fulfills you, because there's a lot out there. And like Frank said, if you don't like what you're seeing over here, then go find another path and search for it, because it's probably out there. Frank, this was great. I appreciate all your time and your insights. You can reach Frank at Ownify.com. You can reach me if you want to talk about any business coaching to grow your business at JonDwoskin.com. Frank, thanks so much.
Thanks, Jon. Appreciate it.